Hey there, beautiful soul. If you're watching this right now, chances are you're exhausted. Maybe you just got home from another soul-crushing day at the office. Maybe you're lying in bed at 2 a.m., scrolling through your phone, because your mind won't shut off. Maybe you're sitting in your car in the parking lot, trying to gather the strength to walk into another day of meetings, deadlines, and demanding bosses. I get it. We all get it. You know what's crazy? Right now, as you're watching this, there are millions of people across America doing the exact same thing. In Manhattan, some investment banker is having a panic attack. In a Starbucks bathroom, in Silicon Valley, a tech worker is crying in their Tesla because they haven't seen their kids awake in 3 days. In small-town America, a nurse is wondering if she can make it through one more 12-hour shift. We're all running on empty, and we're all pretending we're fine. The American dream has become the American nightmare, hasn't it? We were told if we worked hard enough, climbed the corporate ladder, got the degree, landed the six-figure job, bought the house with the white picket fence, we'd be happy, we'd be fulfilled, we'd finally make it. But here's what nobody told us. You can have everything on your vision board and still feel completely empty inside. You can have the corner office and still dread Monday mornings. You can have a full bank account and an empty heart. You can be successful on LinkedIn and suicidal in real life. And the worst part? We can't even talk about it, because in America, admitting you're struggling is seen as weakness, asking for help is seen as failure, taking a mental health day is seen as being uncommitted to the team. So we pop another Adderall, grab another energy drink, put on another fake smile, and pretend everything's fine. We work through lunch, skip vacation days, answer emails at midnight, and wonder why we feel like we're drowning. The statistics are insane. Did you know that 76% of American workers report experiencing workplace burnout? That's not a problem, that's an epidemic. We have more anxiety and depression than any generation in history. We are the richest country in the world, and we are also the most medicated. Suicide rates are through the roof, drug overdoses are at an all-time high, and still, we keep pushing, keep grinding, keep hustling, because that's what we've been taught to do. But what if I told you there's another way? What if I told you that 2,000 years ago, someone looked at human exhaustion and said something that could change everything? Jesus Christ, whether you consider yourself religious or not, hear me out on this. Jesus looked at people who were tired, overwhelmed, and burned out, and he said these words, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." Matthew 1128-230. Now, before you click away thinking this is going to be some preachy, religious stuff, stay with me. Because what Jesus was addressing here is exactly what we're dealing with today. He wasn't talking to people in some ancient, irrelevant context. He was talking to people living under the crushing weight of expectation, people trying to measure up to impossible standards, people exhausted from trying to earn their worth through performance. Sound familiar? The religious leaders of Jesus' time had created a system where people had to follow over 600 rules just to be considered good enough. Every day was about performing, measuring up, checking boxes, meeting expectations. People were literally working themselves to death trying to earn approval. Does that remind you of anything? Like maybe modern corporate culture. We've created our own set of impossible rules, haven't we? Work 60 hours a week, be available to 147. Never say no to your boss. Always be networking. Always be hustling. Side hustle on weekends. Optimize your morning routine. Biohack your productivity. And if you're not constantly growing, constantly achieving, constantly posting about your wins on social media, then you're falling behind. You're not enough. Jesus looked at this insanity and said, "Come to me, and I'll give you rest." Not work harder, and you'll eventually earn rest. Not, rest is for the weak. Not sleep when you're dead. He said, "Come as you are, and I'll give you rest, right now, today." But here's where it gets really interesting. The word Jesus used for rest in the original Greek wasn't just talking about taking a nap. It was the word anapausis, which means complete restoration, total renewal, being filled up again. It's not just about sleeping more or taking a vacation. It's about having your soul completely recharged. It's about finding a peace so deep that external circumstances can't shake it. And here's the kicker. He says his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Now, if you're not familiar with farming terminology, a yoke is what you put on oxen so they can work together to pull a heavy load. Jesus is basically saying, instead of carrying all this weight by yourself, let me help you carry it. Think about that for a second. How many of us are trying to carry the weight of our entire lives, our careers, our finances, our relationships, our health, our families, our futures, all by ourselves? We're like people trying to move a refrigerator single-handedly when there's someone right next to us, saying, hey, I'll take the heavy end, but we're too proud, too independent, too self-made to ask for help, because asking for help isn't the American way, right? We're supposed to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, figure it out ourselves, be our own heroes. Except we're not heroes, we're humans, and humans weren't designed to carry everything alone. The American individualism that we're so proud of, the same thing that built this country, has become the very thing that's destroying our mental health. We've made independence an idol, and it's killing us. But Jesus offers something different. He offers interdependence. He offers partnership. He offers to carry the heavy stuff, so we can focus on actually living. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? What do I have to do? What do I have to change? What rules do I have to follow? Here's the beautiful thing: nothing. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to clean up your act first. You don't have to stop cussing or start going to church, or figure out your entire life. Jesus literally said, come as you are. Burned out, exhausted, barely holding it together, questioning everything. Come as you are. The religious people of Jesus' time hated this message, by the way, because they had built their entire identity around being good enough through their performance. And here was Jesus saying you could have peace and rest without earning it. It threatened their whole system, just like it threatens our whole system today. Because if you can find deep, lasting peace without the corner office, what does that say about the corner office? If you can find rest without the six-figure salary, what does that say about the six-figure salary? If you can have joy without the perfect Instagram life, what does that say about the perfect Instagram life? It says that maybe we've been chasing the wrong things. Maybe we've been trying to fill a God-sized hole with career-sized accomplishments. Maybe we've been medicating spiritual emptiness with material success. And maybe, just maybe, the thing we've been looking for in all the wrong places has been available to us all along. I remember a few years ago, I was talking to this executive, won't say what company, but you definitely know the name. This guy had everything. I'm talking private jet money, multiple homes, his face on magazine covers, and he told me something that stuck with me. He said, I achieved every goal I ever set for myself by the time I was 35. I had everything I thought would make me happy, and I was the most miserable I'd ever been in my life. He said he used to lie awake at night, thinking, if this is what success looks like, why do I feel like such a failure? That's the thing about burnout. It's not just being tired from working too much. It's the deep, soul-level exhaustion that comes from pouring your life into things that were never designed to satisfy you. We've been told that career fulfillment is the highest good, that professional achievement is what gives life meaning, that climbing the ladder is the point of existence. But what if it's not? What if careers are just one part of a much bigger picture? What if your job title doesn't define your worth? What if your productivity doesn't determine your value? What if you're loved, valued, and cherished regardless of what you accomplish today? That's a foreign concept in our culture, isn't it? We're so used to conditional love. I'll love you if you perform well, if you make me proud, if you don't disappoint me. But Jesus offers something different: unconditional love, unchanging acceptance, worth that's not tied to performance. The Bible says that God knew you before you were born, that He has plans for you, that He's thinking about you constantly, that you're so valuable to Him that He gave His own life for you, not because of what you've done, not because of what you might do, but because of who you are. You are not human doing, you are a human being. Your being has value independent of your doing. I know that's hard to accept if you've spent your whole life trying to earn love, approval, and acceptance through achievement. Trust me, I get it. I was the kid who got straight A's because I thought that's how I earned my parents' love. I was the employee who worked 80-hour weeks because I thought that's how I earned my boss's respect. And you know what I learned? You can never work hard enough to fill the hole that only God can fill. You can never achieve enough to satisfy the longing that only God can satisfy, because we weren't created for careers. We were created for relationship. We weren't designed for productivity. We were designed for connection. And the deepest connection available to us is with our Creator. Now, I know this might be challenging if you've had negative experiences with religion or church. Maybe you grew up in a legalistic environment where God was presented as angry, demanding, and impossible to please. Maybe you've encountered Christians who were judgmental, hypocritical, or just plain mean. If that's you, I'm sorry. That's not who God really is, and that's not what Jesus really taught. The Jesus of the Bible spent time with outcasts, misfits, and people that religious folks looked down on. He defended women whose society had written off. He ate dinner with corrupt businessmen. He showed compassion to people who were struggling with addiction. He was gentle with people who were hurting and tough on people who were hurting others. And when it comes to rest, to peace, to freedom from the crushing weight of trying to earn your worth, he offers it freely to anyone who wants it. No membership required, no religious performance necessary, no spiritual resume needed, just come as you are. So let's talk about what rest actually looks like, because I think we've forgotten. When was the last time you truly rested? And I don't mean binge watching Netflix until 2 a.m. while stress eating takeout and scrolling TikTok. I don't mean that weird pseudo rest we do where we're relaxing, but our minds are still racing about tomorrow's presentation or next month's rent. I mean real rest. The kind where your nervous system actually downregulates, where your shoulders drop from around your ears, where you're not performing for anyone, not optimizing anything, not making the most of your time. When did rest become another thing we had to be good at? We've got sleep trackers telling us we're failing at sleep, meditation apps guilting us for missing our mindfulness streak, fitness trackers buzzing at us to stand up every hour. Even our rest has become another metric to optimize. But that's not what Jesus was talking about when he promised rest. Look at Psalm 23, probably the most famous passage in the entire Bible. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. Notice that? He makes me lie down. Sometimes God has to force us to rest, because we've forgotten how to do it voluntarily. Think about sheep for a second. Sheep will literally graze themselves to death if left alone. They'll keep eating and moving and working until they collapse. Sound familiar? That's why they need a shepherd. Someone to guide them to green pastures. Someone to lead them to still waters. Someone to make them lie down before they work themselves to death. And here's the beautiful thing about green pastures. They're not just green because they look pretty. They're green because they're fertile, nourished, life-giving. When God gives you rest, it's not just the absence of work, it's the presence of restoration. The Hebrew word for refreshes in that verse is shuv. It means to turn around, to return, to restore completely. It's like hitting a reset button on your entire being. But we live in a culture that's allergic to actual rest, don't we? I was talking to a friend recently who took her first real vacation in 3 years. You know what she did the whole time? Checked email, because she was afraid that if she truly disconnected, she'd come back to chaos. And you know what? She probably would have. Because we've built systems that require constant human intervention to function, we've created jobs that demand 247 availability, and then wonder why everyone's having anxiety attacks. But here's what's crazy. The Bible actually talks about this. There's this concept called Sabbath that most of us have heard of, but don't really understand. Sabbath wasn't just about going to church on Sunday, though there's nothing wrong with that. Sabbath was about regularly practicing non-productivity. It was about setting aside time where your value as a human being wasn't tied to what you accomplished. God literally commanded people to rest, not suggested, commanded. He said, 6 days you shall work, but on the seventh day you shall rest. And this wasn't because God was trying to limit productivity or hold people back from success. It was because he knew something about human nature that we've forgotten. We are not machines. We are not designed to run at 100% capacity indefinitely. We need rhythms of work and rest, activity and reflection, doing and being. But American capitalism has convinced us that rest is laziness, that downtime is wasted time, that if we are not constantly producing, we are not valuable. We've made business a badge of honor. We compete over who's more exhausted, who's working longer hours, who has less time for basic human needs like sleep and relationships and hobbies. How are you doing? Oh my God, I'm so busy. As if being busy equals being important, as if exhaustion equals success. But what if the opposite is true? What if the most successful people are the ones who have learned to rest well? What if productivity actually increases when we stop trying to be productive all the time? There's this fascinating study from Microsoft Japan, where they implemented a 4-day work week. You know what happened? Productivity went up by 40%. 40% when people had more time to rest, to recharge, to be human beings instead of human doings. They actually became more effective at their jobs. But we are so addicted to the grind that we can't imagine a different way. I remember a few years back, I was working with this startup. Everyone was pulling 80-hour weeks, sleeping under their desks, living on energy drinks and sheer determination. The founders were proud of their hustle culture. 6 months later, half the team had quit, 2 people had nervous breakdowns, and the company folded. All that grinding, all that sacrifice, all that whatever it takes mentality, and they burned out so hard they couldn't even finish what they started. Meanwhile, their competitor, who had reasonable hours, encouraged vacation time, and treated their employees like human beings, ended up acquiring their entire client base. Rest isn't just about feeling good. Rest is strategic. Rest is productive. Rest is what allows you to sustain excellence, instead of just burning bright and flaming out. But even more than that, rest is spiritual. When you rest, you're making a statement of faith. You're saying, I trust that the world will keep spinning without my constant intervention. I trust that my value doesn't depend on my productivity. I trust that God is in control, even when I'm not working. That's scary for a lot of us, isn't it? Because we've become control addicts. We think if we just work hard enough, plan well enough, optimize everything perfectly, we can guarantee good outcomes. But that's an illusion, and it's an exhausting illusion to maintain. The truth is, most of what we worry about is completely outside our control. The economy, other people's decisions, natural disasters, global pandemics. We can prepare for these things, but we can't control them. And spending our lives in a constant state of anxiety about things we can't control is like trying to drink the ocean. It's impossible, and it will kill you trying. Jesus said, "Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life?" Matthew 6:27. But we act like worry is productive. We act like anxiety is preparation. We act like stress is just part of being a responsible adult. What if it's not? What if most of our stress is self-imposed? What if we're carrying burdens that were never ours to carry? I think about all the things I used to lose sleep over: market fluctuations, political elections, other people's opinions of me, worst case scenarios that never happened, all that mental energy, all that emotional bandwidth, all that life force, wasted on things that were either completely outside my control or completely inside my imagination. Meanwhile, the things that were actually within my control, my attitude, my choices, my responses, my relationships with the people right in front of me, those things often got neglected because I was too busy worrying about everything else. It's like being so focused on the horizon that you trip over what's right in front of you. Jesus talked about this too. He said, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Matthew 6:34. He's not saying don't plan for the future. He's saying don't let anxiety about the future rob you of peace in the present. Because the present moment is all we actually have. The past is gone. The future isn't here yet. Right now is where life is actually happening. But we spend so much time elsewhere, replaying past mistakes, rehearsing future conversations, imagining disaster scenarios, optimizing for outcomes we can't guarantee, and we wonder why we can't sleep, why we can't focus, why we feel disconnected from our own lives. It's because we are not actually present for our own lives. We're too busy managing our mental time machine, traveling back and forth between guilt and anxiety, never landing in the one place where peace is actually available right here, right now. This is where meditation and mindfulness practices can be really helpful. By the way, not as some new age spiritual bypassing, but as practical tools for learning how to be where you are. The Bible actually has a lot to say about this kind of present moment awareness. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 4610. Inches. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Psalm 11,824. But being present is hard when you're in survival mode all the time. And let's be honest, a lot of us are in survival mode. Maybe it's financial pressure, maybe it's job insecurity, maybe it's health problems, or relationship issues, or family drama. Maybe it's just the low-level, chronic stress of trying to keep up in a world that moves faster every year. When you're in survival mode, rest feels like a luxury you can't afford. When you're barely keeping your head above water, the idea of taking time to be still and know that God is God can feel tone deaf. I get that. I've been there. But here's what I've learned: you can't think your way out of survival mode. You can't work your way out of it. You can't optimize your way out of it. The only way out of survival mode is surrender. And I know that word might make you uncomfortable. Surrender sounds like giving up, like admitting defeat, like letting life happen to you instead of making things happen. But biblical surrender is different. It's not passive resignation, it's active trust. It's saying, God, I've been trying to control things that are beyond my control, and it's killing me. I'm going to focus on what's actually mine to do, and trust you with the rest. It's the difference between carrying a backpack and dragging a refrigerator. Both involve effort, but one is sustainable, and one will destroy you. Most of us are dragging refrigerators and calling it responsibility. But Jesus says, my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. The word easy there doesn't mean effortless. It means well-fitted, like a custom-made yoke that distributes weight properly. Instead of chafing and causing injury, God has work for you to do, purposes for you to fulfill, problems for you to solve, but they're sized for you. They're fitted to your capacity, your gifting, your season of life. The problem is, we keep picking up burdens that aren't ours. We take on other people's emergencies, other people's emotions, other people's responsibilities. We try to solve problems we weren't called to solve, meet needs we weren't meant to meet, fix things that aren't ours to fix, and then we wonder why we're exhausted. It's like trying to wear someone else's yoke. It doesn't fit right, it rubs you raw, it makes everything harder than it needs to be. Learning to discern what's yours and what isn't, that's a game changer. Learning to say, that's not my circus, those aren't my monkeys, that's freedom. But it requires wisdom. And wisdom takes time to develop. You can't rush it, you can't hack it, you can't optimize your way to it. Wisdom comes through experience, reflection, and yes, rest. Because wisdom requires perspective, and you can't gain perspective when you're constantly in motion. Sometimes you have to step back from the painting to see what you're actually creating. Let's talk about the elephant in the room: social media. I know, you're probably watching this on your phone right now, maybe even scrolling through comments while listening, and that's okay. I'm not here to shame anyone for their screen time, but we need to have an honest conversation about what social media is doing to our mental health, especially when we're already burned out. You know what's wild? We have more ways to connect with people than ever before in human history, and yet loneliness rates are at an all-time high. Depression among teens and young adults has skyrocketed since Instagram launched. Anxiety disorders are through the roof. Coincidence? I don't think so. Here's what happens. You're already feeling like crap about your life. Maybe you had a terrible day at work. Maybe you're stressed about money. Maybe you're feeling behind in life. So you open Instagram to relax. And what do you see? Your college roommate just bought a house. Your coworker got promoted. Someone from high school is on vacation in Bali. Your cousin just got engaged. Everyone's living their best life while you're eating cereal for dinner in your studio apartment, wondering if you'll ever get your act together. But here's what you're not seeing: the anxiety attack your roommate had before signing that mortgage, the 80-hour weeks your coworker pulled to get that promotion, the credit card debt your classmate racked up for that Bali trip, the 3 failed relationships your cousin went through before finding the one. Social media shows you everyone's highlight reel while you're living your behind-the-scenes footage, and then you wonder why you feel like you're failing at life. It's like comparing your rough draft to everyone else's published book. Of course you're going to feel inadequate, but even worse than the comparison trap is the performance pressure. We've turned our actual lives into content. We're not just living experiences anymore, we're curating them for an audience. Can't just eat a meal, gotta photograph it first. Can't just enjoy a sunset, gotta get the perfect shot for your story. Can't just spend time with friends, gotta document it to prove you have a social life. We're performing our lives instead of living them, and performance is exhausting, especially when it never stops. You know what Jesus said about this kind of performance? He called out the religious leaders of his time who were doing everything for show. Everything they do is done for people to see. Matthew 235. He wasn't impressed by their carefully curated public image. He was looking at their hearts. He cared about who they were when nobody was watching, not how they appeared when everybody was. But we live in a world where it feels like everybody's always watching. We carry around a device that gives us instant access to the opinions of everyone we've ever met, plus millions of strangers, and those opinions matter to us way more than they should. We're addicted to likes, comments, shares, validation from people whose opinions wouldn't matter to us in real life. I saw this meme once that said, social media made your way too comfortable with disrespecting people. and not getting punched in the face for it. And while I don't advocate for violence, there's truth there. We're letting people we don't even know, people who don't pay our bills, or love our families, or know our struggles, dictate how we feel about ourselves. That's insane when you really think about it, but it's also completely understandable, because we're wired for community. We need belonging, acceptance, validation. These are legitimate human needs. The problem is, social media gives us the illusion of community without the actual benefits. It's like emotional junk food. It hits the spot temporarily, but leaves you malnourished in the long run. Real community requires vulnerability, consistency, showing up for people when it's inconvenient. It requires seeing people at their worst and choosing to love them anyway. It requires being seen at your worst and experiencing grace. You can't get that from double tapping photos and leaving fire emojis in comments sections. But here's where it gets really dangerous for those of us dealing with burnout. When you're already exhausted and overwhelmed, social media becomes a place to escape from your problems. Instead of dealing with them, it's digital dissociation. You're physically present, but mentally checked out, scrolling mindlessly through other people's lives to avoid dealing with your own. And the algorithm knows this. It's designed to keep you scrolling, to keep you engaged, to keep you coming back. Your attention is the product being sold to advertisers, so of course it's going to feed you content that triggers strong emotional responses: outrage, envy, fear, desire. Because those emotions keep you engaged. You're not the customer, you're the product, and the product is being optimized for engagement, not for your well-being. This is why so many people report feeling worse about themselves after social media sessions. You went online to feel better, but the platform makes money by making you feel like you're missing something, lacking something, not enough somehow. It's a system designed to create dissatisfaction so you'll keep consuming. And when you're burned out, when your emotional reserves are already depleted, you're especially vulnerable to this manipulation. So what's the solution? Delete all social media apps and go live in a cabin in the woods? I mean, that sounds pretty tempting some days, but for most of us, that's not realistic. Social media is how we stay connected with family, how we promote our businesses, how we access information and entertainment. The key is intentionality, using these platforms instead of being used by them. Set boundaries, specific times for checking social media instead of constant scrolling. Turn off notifications so you're not being interrupted every 5 minutes. Unfollow accounts that consistently make you feel bad about yourself, even if it's just because they trigger comparison. And most importantly, remember that what you see online is not reality. It's a carefully curated, filtered, edited version of reality designed to get engagement. Everyone's struggling with something. Everyone has bad days, insecurities, problems they don't post about. The person with the perfect Instagram feed might be dealing with depression. The person posting inspirational quotes might be having a panic attack. Social media doesn't show you the full picture of anyone's life, including your own. But you know who does see the full picture? God. Psalm 139 says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways." God knows your unfiltered life. He knows your 3 a.m. anxiety spirals, your ugly crying sessions, your days when you can barely get out of bed. He knows your failures, your regrets, your secret shame. And he loves you anyway, not despite your flaws, but including them. Not waiting for you to get your act together, but meeting you right where you are. That's the kind of acceptance we're all looking for on social media. The kind of validation that says, you matter, you're valuable, you're enough. But we're looking for it in the wrong place. We're trying to get from broken people what only God can give us. And this brings us to another huge source of burnout. In our culture, perfectionism. Oh man. Perfectionism, the disease of our generation. We've been raised to believe that anything less than excellence is failure, that mistakes are catastrophic, that vulnerability is weakness. We've been taught to optimize everything: our productivity, our relationships, our health, our finances, our personal brand. There's a hack for everything, a system for everything, a way to do everything better, faster, more efficiently. And if you're not constantly improving, constantly growing, constantly leveling up, then you're falling behind. This is exhausting. You know what's funny? Perfectionism isn't actually about being perfect. It's about avoiding shame. It's about trying to earn love and approval through flawless performance. But here's the thing about perfectionism: It's based on a lie. The lie that your worth is tied to your performance. The lie that love is conditional on meeting impossible standards. The lie that you have to earn your place in this world. God's love isn't conditional. Your worth isn't tied to your achievements. You don't have to earn your place. It's already been given to you. Romans 58 says, "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us, while we were still a mess, while we were still struggling, while we were still imperfect." That's when God chose to love us, not after we cleaned up our act, not after we reached some level of spiritual maturity, not after we proved ourselves worthy. While we were still broken, God looked at us and said, "I choose you." This completely undermines the perfectionist mindset, doesn't it? Because if God's love isn't based on performance, then maybe human love doesn't have to be either. Maybe you can be loved in your imperfection. Maybe you can belong without earning it. Maybe you're enough exactly as you are. But perfectionism doesn't give up easily. It's been protecting you for a long time, probably since childhood. It convinced you that if you could just be good enough, smart enough, successful enough, then you'd finally be safe from rejection and abandonment. Except it never works, because perfection is impossible, and even if it weren't, it wouldn't guarantee love. Some of the most perfect people I know are also the loneliest, because they've never allowed anyone to see their real selves. They're loved for their image, not their identity. And that kind of love is fragile, conditional, exhausting to maintain. Real love sees your flaws and chooses you anyway. Real love doesn't require you to be perfect. Real love creates safety for imperfection. And that's the kind of love God offers, not love that you have to earn, but love that you can rest in. This is revolutionary for those of us who've been performing our whole lives. The idea that we can be loved without being perfect, accepted without being flawless, valued without being valuable to others. It means we can stop trying so hard. We can stop optimizing every aspect of our existence. We can stop turning everything into a performance. We can just be. But just being feels dangerous when you've been taught that your worth is tied to your doing. What if people reject you? What if you disappoint them? What if you're not enough? These are legitimate fears, and honestly, some people might reject the real you. Some people are only interested in what you can do for them, not who you actually are. But those aren't your people. Your people will love you in your imperfection. Your people will see your flaws and choose to stay. Your people will create space for your humanity. And ultimately, God is the source of that kind of love. Human love is beautiful and necessary, but it's also limited and sometimes conditional. Only God's love is completely unconditional, completely consistent, completely safe. When you know you're loved by God, not for what you do, but for who you are, it changes everything. It gives you the security to be authentic with others. It gives you the confidence to set boundaries. It gives you the freedom to fail without being destroyed. It gives you permission to be human. And being human means having limits. It means getting tired. It means making mistakes. It means not being able to do everything or be everything to everyone. This is especially hard for those of us who are people pleasers. We've been taught that our job is to make everyone else comfortable, even at the expense of our own well-being. We say yes when we want to say no. We take on responsibilities that aren't ours. We absorb other people's emotions like sponges. We try to fix problems that aren't ours to fix, and then we wonder why we are exhausted all the time. But people-pleasing isn't actually love. It's fear. Fear of disappointing people. Fear of conflict. Fear of rejection. Real love sometimes says no. Real love sets boundaries. Real love tells the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Jesus was the most loving person who ever lived, and he disappointed people all the time. He didn't heal everyone who asked. He didn't go everywhere he was invited. He prioritized some relationships over others. He knew his mission, his calling, his limits, and he operated within them, even when it meant letting some people down. That's not selfish. That's sustainable. That's how you love people for the long haul instead of burning out, trying to be everything to everyone. But learning to set boundaries is hard, especially if you've never learned how. It feels selfish, mean, uncaring. The truth is, boundaries aren't walls, they're property lines. They help people know where you end and they begin. They create clarity about what you're responsible for and what you're not. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out, they're about creating sustainable ways to stay connected without losing yourself in the process. And here's the beautiful thing: when you set healthy boundaries, the people who truly care about you will respect them. They'll appreciate your honesty. They'll be glad to know how to love you well. The people who get angry about your boundaries, they were probably benefiting from your lack of them. They were probably taking more than they were giving. Those relationships might need to change or end. and that's okay. It's better to have a few deep, mutual relationships than a bunch of surface level connections that drain your energy. Quality over quantity, depth over breadth, authenticity over performance. These aren't just nice ideas, they're survival strategies for a culture that will consume everything you're willing to give, and then ask for more. Alright, let's get practical, because faith without action is just wishful thinking, and you need real tools for real recovery. First things first, if you're having thoughts of self-harm, if you're contemplating suicide, if you feel like you can't go on, please reach out for professional help immediately. Call 988 the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Text hello to 741 crisis text line, or go to your nearest emergency room. God wants you alive. Your story isn't over. There are people trained to help you through this crisis, and there's no shame in getting that help. Mental health is health, period. You wouldn't try to treat diabetes with prayer alone. Don't try to treat clinical depression or anxiety without professional support, either. God works through doctors, therapists, medication, and treatment programs. Using these resources isn't a lack of faith, it's stewardship of the life God gave you. That said, let's talk about practical steps for burnout recovery that you can start implementing today. Step 1: Sleep hygiene. I know you've heard this before, but seriously, most of us are running on 4 to 6 hours of sleep and wondering why we feel terrible. Your brain literally cleans itself while you sleep. It's when your body repairs tissues, consolidates memories, and regulates hormones. Chronic sleep deprivation isn't just tiredness, it's brain damage. Here's what actually works. Same bedtime and wake time every day. Yes, even on weekends. No screens for at least an hour before bed. The blue light messes with your circadian rhythm. Keep your room cool, dark, and quiet. No caffeine after 2 p.m. And here's the spiritual component: use that hour before bed for reflection, gratitude, prayer, or reading something that feeds your soul, instead of consuming content that agitates your nervous system. Psalm 48 says, "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." Make your bedroom a sanctuary, a place where you can truly rest, not just collapse from exhaustion. Step 2: Boundaries with work. This is huge, especially if you're in a toxic workplace culture. You know what's toxic? When your employer expects you to be available 247, when you're made to feel guilty for using your vacation days, when you're pressured to work through lunch, stay late every night, come in on weekends, when your worth as an employee is measured by how much you sacrifice your personal life for the company. That's not dedication, that's exploitation. Now, I get it. Sometimes you need the job, even if it's toxic. Bills don't pay themselves, but you can still set internal boundaries. Don't check email after a certain time. Don't answer work calls during family time. Use your vacation days. They're part of your compensation package, not a favor from your employer. And start looking for an exit strategy. Update your resume. Network with people in healthier companies. Develop skills that make you more marketable. You don't have to stay trapped in a job that's destroying your mental health. There are better opportunities out there, even if you can't see them right now. Remember, your employer didn't hesitate to hire you, and they wouldn't hesitate to fire you if it served their interests. You don't owe them your entire life. Step 3: Digital detox. Not forever, just regularly. 1 day a week. Put the phone in another room. Don't check social media. Don't answer non-emergency texts. Don't scroll through news articles designed to make you angry and afraid. Use that time to reconnect with yourself, your loved ones, your thoughts that aren't influenced by algorithms. Go for a walk without listening to a podcast. Eat a meal without photographing it. Have a conversation without documenting it. Rediscover what it feels like to be present in your own life. The Bible calls this Sabbath. And it's not just about religious observance, it's about mental health. It's about remembering that you're a human being, not a human doing. Step 4: Community. Real community, not online community. Find people you can be honest with, people who won't try to fix you or give you advice unless you ask for it. People who will just sit with you in your pain without trying to make it go away. This might be a therapy group, a support group, a church small group, or just a few close friends who get it. The key is vulnerability. You can't heal in isolation, and you can't heal while pretending everything's fine. Tell people you're struggling. Ask for help when you need it. Let others carry part of your burden. I know this is terrifying if you've been the strong one, the helper. the one everyone comes to with their problems. But you can't pour from an empty cup, you have to let yourself be filled up too. Galatians 6:2 says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Notice it doesn't say carry everyone's burdens by yourself. It says carry each other's burdens. It's mutual. It's reciprocal. You help others, and you let others help you. That's how community is supposed to work. Step 5. Professional help when needed. Therapy isn't just for people who are crazy or broken. Therapy is for people who want to understand themselves better, process difficult experiences, and develop healthier coping strategies. It's like having a personal trainer for your emotional fitness. Good therapy can help you identify patterns you didn't even know existed, heal wounds you didn't realize were still bleeding, and develop skills for managing stress, anxiety, and difficult emotions. There's no shame in getting help. In fact, it takes courage, it takes humility, it takes wisdom. And if medication is recommended, don't let stigma keep you from trying it. Your brain is an organ like any other. Sometimes organs need medical support to function properly. God gave us medical knowledge, therapeutic techniques, and pharmaceutical interventions as gifts. Using them isn't a lack of faith, it's stewardship. Now, let's talk about the spiritual dimension of burnout recovery. Because while practical strategies are important, they're not enough by themselves. Burnout isn't just a physical or emotional problem, it's often a spiritual crisis. It's what happens when we try to find ultimate meaning, purpose, and satisfaction in things that were never designed to provide them. Careers, relationships, achievements, possessions. These can all be good things, but they make terrible gods. When we expect them to give us what only God can give us, we set ourselves up for disappointment and despair. You were created for more than just productivity. You were created for relationship with your Creator. You were designed to find your identity, purpose, and security in something bigger than yourself. When that relationship is healthy, everything else finds its proper place. Work becomes service instead of slavery. Relationships become sources of joy instead of just obligation. Achievements become celebrations instead of desperate attempts to prove your worth. But when that relationship is broken or non-existent, everything else becomes too important. Work becomes your identity, success becomes your security, other people's approval becomes your lifeline. And that's unsustainable. It will always lead to burnout eventually. So how do you develop this relationship with God? Start simple, start honest, start wherever you are. If you've never prayed before, try talking to God like you would talk to a trusted friend. Tell him what's really going on. Share your fears, your hopes, your frustrations. Ask for help. You don't have to use fancy religious language. You don't have to clean up your vocabulary. God knows what you're thinking anyway. You might as well be honest about it. If you've been hurt by religion in the past, tell God about that too. He can handle your anger, your doubts, your questions. He's not threatened by your honesty. Read the Bible, especially the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, to see what Jesus was actually like. You might be surprised. He spent most of his time with people who were struggling, not people who had it all figured out. Find a community of people who are also trying to follow Jesus. Not perfect people, there aren't any, but people who are honest about their struggles and committed to growth. This might take some searching. There are a lot of churches out there, and honestly, some of them are healthier than others. Look for places that emphasize grace over performance, authenticity over image, love over judgment. Ask questions, visit different communities, take your time, and remember, God isn't contained in any one church or denomination. You can have a relationship with Him, regardless of whether you find the perfect faith community. But community is important. We weren't designed to do life alone, and we weren't designed to do faith alone either. Now, let's talk about practical rhythms for recovery. Morning routine. Start your day with something that feeds your soul before you feed the world's demands. Maybe that's prayer. Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's just sitting in silence with your coffee. The key is doing something for yourself before you start doing things for everyone else. Work rhythms. Take actual breaks. Step away from your computer. Go outside. Eat lunch away from your desk. Have conversations with real humans about non-work topics. Protect your evenings and weekends as much as possible. Work will expand to fill whatever time you give it. Set boundaries and stick to them. Exercise. You don't have to become a CrossFit athlete. Just move your body regularly. Walk, swim, dance, play with your dog. Exercise literally changes your brain chemistry and improves your ability to handle stress. Nutrition: stop eating garbage. I know. Cooking real food takes time you don't have, but fueling your body properly is part of loving yourself well. Meal prep on Sundays. Keep healthy snacks around. Drink water. Your body is the only one you get. Treat it like it matters. Creative expression: do something that has nothing to do with productivity or achievement. Draw, write, sing, garden, woodwork, photography, whatever brings you joy. We've turned everything into a side hustle, but some things should just be for fun. Some things should just feed your soul without having to monetize your passion. Rest, actual rest, not just the absence of work, but the presence of peace. This might look like taking a bath, reading fiction, listening to music, sitting in nature, having a meaningful conversation, praying, meditating. Find what restores you and protect time for it like your life depends on it, because it does. Gratitude practice. This isn't toxic positivity. This isn't pretending everything is fine when it's not. This is training your brain to notice good things that are already there. Every night before bed, think of 3 things you're grateful for that day. They can be small: good coffee, a kind text from a friend, making it through a difficult conversation. Gratitude doesn't minimize your problems, but it puts them in perspective. It reminds you that your life isn't all darkness, even when it feels like it. Service when you're ready, when you're not running on empty. Find ways to help others. Volunteer at a food bank, mentor a young person, check in on an elderly neighbor. Service gets you outside of your own head and reminds you that you have something valuable to offer the world. It creates meaning and connection that goes beyond personal achievement. But notice I said when you're ready. You can't serve effectively from a place of depletion. Fill your own cup first. Now, let's be real about the recovery process. It's not linear, it's not quick, it's not Instagram worthy. Some days you'll feel great, like you've turned a corner, like you're finally getting your life back together. Other days you'll feel like you're back at square one, like nothing has changed, like you're broken beyond repair. Both of those feelings are normal. Recovery isn't a straight line from broken to healed, it's a spiral. Sometimes you revisit the same issues at deeper levels, but each time you go around the spiral, you're a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more equipped to handle whatever comes next. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, talk to yourself like you would talk to a good friend going through the same thing. Remember that healing takes time. A broken bone takes months to heal completely. A broken heart, a burned out spirit, why would we expect that to heal overnight? Give yourself permission to be in process. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. You don't have to be fixed by next week. You're not a machine that broke down and needs to be repaired quickly so you can get back to work. You're a human being who's been through trauma, because yes, chronic stress and burnout are traumatic, and you need time to heal. And during that healing time, you might not be as productive as usual. You might need to say no to things you would normally say yes to. You might need to lower your standards temporarily while you rebuild your capacity. That's not failure, that's wisdom. A broken leg doesn't make you less of a person. It just means you need crutches for a while. Burnout doesn't make you weak. It just means you need support while you recover. Some of you might be wondering, how long will this take? When will I feel normal again? The honest answer is it depends. It depends on how long you've been running on empty, how much trauma you've accumulated, how much support you have, how willing you are to make necessary changes. For some people, it's months. For others, it's years. But here's what I can promise you: if you commit to the process, if you're honest about your needs, if you accept help when it's offered, you will get better. You might not go back to exactly who you were before. And honestly, that's probably a good thing. The person you were before burned out. The person you're becoming can sustain long-term well-being. You're not trying to go back. You're moving forward to something better. And here's where faith becomes crucial. Because recovery requires hope, and hope requires believing that things can be different than they are right now. When you're in the middle of burnout, when everything feels dark and hopeless and overwhelming, it's hard to imagine that life could ever feel good again. But Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." All things, not just the good things, not just the easy things, but all things, including this burnout, including this pain, including this season of struggle. God doesn't waste anything. He can take the worst experiences of your life and somehow weave them into something beautiful, something meaningful. something that helps other people. Your current pain might be preparing you to comfort someone else who's going through the same thing. Your recovery might inspire someone else to seek help. Your story might be exactly what someone needs to hear, to know they're not alone. This doesn't mean God caused your burnout or that he wanted you to suffer. It means he's so good at redemption that he can bring beauty from ashes, strength from weakness, hope from despair. But you have to let him. You have to surrender control. You have to trust the process, even when you can't see where it's leading. And that's probably the hardest part for those of us who are used to being in charge of our own lives. Surrender feels dangerous. Surrender feels like giving up. But biblical surrender isn't passive resignation. It's active trust. It's saying, God, I've been trying to manage my life, and I'm failing miserably. I need your wisdom, your strength, your perspective. Show me what to do and give me the courage to do it. It's the difference between white-knuckling through life and learning to flow with God's guidance. And here's what's amazing: when you stop trying to control everything, when you start trusting God with the big picture, life actually becomes more manageable, not less. Because you're not carrying the weight of outcomes you can't guarantee. You're not responsible for results that depend on factors outside your control. You're responsible for faithfulness, not success. You're responsible for obedience, not outcomes. You're responsible for showing up, not for controlling what happens when you do. That's incredibly freeing for those of us who've been trying to micromanage the universe. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a friend of mine who was working in investment banking, pulling 100-hour weeks, making ridiculous money, and slowly dying inside. She kept telling herself she just needed to make it to the next bonus, the next promotion, the next milestone. Then she'd have enough money saved to pursue what she really wanted to do. But enough kept moving, and meanwhile, her health was falling apart, her relationship ended, and she was having panic attacks in bathroom stalls. The breaking point came when she found herself crying in her car after a client meeting, Googling how many Tylenol does it take on her phone. That scared her enough to reach out for help. She started therapy, joined a church, small group, began setting boundaries at work. And slowly, over about 2 years, her life transformed. She ended up leaving banking and starting a nonprofit that helps people get out of financial crisis. She makes a fraction of what she used to make, but she told me recently, "I've never been happier. I feel like I'm finally doing what I was put on earth to do." Her burnout became her breakthrough. Her breakdown became her breakthrough. The same thing can happen for you, but you have to be willing to change. You can't keep doing the same things and expect different results. You might need to change jobs. You might need to change relationships. You might need to change your entire lifestyle. That's scary. Change is always scary, but staying where you are is scarier if where you are is killing you. And here's the thing about change: you don't have to do it all at once. You can start small. One healthy choice, one boundary, one conversation, one prayer. Small changes compound over time. Little shifts in daily habits create big transformations over months and years. James 14 says, "Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." The word perseverance there doesn't mean grinding harder. It means staying committed to the process, even when progress feels slow. It means showing up consistently for your own healing, even on days when you don't feel like it. It means trusting that God is working in your life, even when you can't see evidence of it yet. Recovery is like building muscle. You don't see results immediately, but if you stay consistent, one day, you look in the mirror and realize you're stronger than you used to be. Emotional and spiritual strength work the same way. Consistent small investments in your well-being create cumulative results that eventually become undeniable. As we wrap up our time together tonight, I want you to know something: God sees you. He sees your exhaustion, your frustration, your fear. He sees how hard you've been trying, how much you've been carrying, how close you've come to giving up. And He's proud of you, not for your achievements, not for your performance, but for your perseverance, for still being here, for still looking for hope, for still believing that things can get better. You matter. Your life has value. Your story isn't finished yet. The same God who spoke the universe into existence, who knows every star by name, who holds the galaxies in place, that same God knows your name, cares about your problems, and has good plans for your future. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." Your current circumstances aren't your final destination. Your present struggles aren't your permanent address. God has more for you. Better days are coming, healing is possible, but it starts with rest. Real rest, biblical rest, the kind of rest that comes from knowing you're loved unconditionally, valued infinitely, and held securely by a God who never sleeps so you can. Psalm 1213-4 says, He will not let your foot slip, He who watches over you will not slumber indeed. He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. God's got the night shift. You can rest. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, give God your worries. Give Him your to-do list. Give Him your fears about tomorrow. You don't have to solve everything tonight. You don't have to figure out your whole life before you close your eyes. You just have to trust that the God who took care of you today will take care of you tomorrow too. Sleep well. Beautiful soul, you're more loved than you know, stronger than you think, and closer to breakthrough than you realize. Sweet dreams. See you in the morning, when God's mercies are new again. 1 Peter 57:inches cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. Good night. If God used this message to speak to your heart tonight, would you help us spread this peace? Hit that like button, subscribe for more biblical rest, and share this with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone in their struggle. Drop a comment below. What's one thing you're surrendering to God tonight? I read every comment and pray over each one of you. Sweet dreams. Beautiful soul. Tomorrow's going to be better because tonight, you chose rest over worry. See you next Sunday for more of God's healing words. Good night, and God bless.